What you're going to get when you do the same thing over and over is that 20 years from now, you're going to look back on your life and say, where did that go? You know, you have to get out of your routine, and it can be just in the tiniest way.
Welcome to Daily Power Boost, Ignite Your Potential, the podcast where your transformation begins. I'm Sean Michael, and each day I'll bring you quick, impactful insights and action steps to fuel your personal and professional growth. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a leader, or someone ready to break limits and ignite greatness, this is your Daily Power Boost to crush obstacles, stay focused, and awaken the extraordinary potential within you. Because remember, greatness begins within. Let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Daily Power Boost Beyond the Boost. Today, I'm excited to welcome Laura Diaz, all the way from down in Peru, where she runs. Well, let her introduce herself.
Hello.
Welcome,
Thanks for
Laura.
having me, Sean. I'm Laura, yes, and I run retreats and tours Peru out of Cusco, Peru.
So, people often think of retreats as an escape, but I would put forth that the ones that really matter, the ones that are more valuable, aren't about leaving your life behind. It's about coming back differently. What do you
I
think
agree with
about
that.
that?
Yes, I would absolutely agree with that.
All right. So tell us what was happening in your life, Laura, when this work stopped being an idea and actually became something you couldn't ignore.
Well, okay, I was selling jewelry from Ecuador and Colombia because I was trying to find a way to fund my travel, and I came across some alpaca products. And so I said, well, let me go to Peru and really check out this alpaca thing. So I hired a guy to be my translator for business, and he is a guide. So he said, I've got this group of 17 people going on a 4-day hike through the jungle to Machu Picchu. You should come along. So I went along, and I was just so impressed. I've never really traveled with a guide, but if I were going to travel with a guide, I would want it to be this guy. He was fun. He was passionate. He knew everything. Everybody felt safe. He was well organized. It was just a really good trip. And so I asked him, what do you make for this 4-day trip through the jungle with 17 people? And he said, oh, about $100. And he said the tour companies keep all the money that people pay. And I was just shocked because, they go to school to be a tour guide. He's got a 4-year education making, you know, $25 a day or something. So I said, well, we should start our own company and change that. So that's what we did. And that's how it started. Yeah.
And for you personally, two-pronged question. You can go path A or path B. It's like choose your own adventure. I loved those when I
Okay.
was a kid. What wasn't working anymore at that point when you made the leap, or what did you have to admit to yourself?
Well, what wasn't working was that, so what I was doing was I would go live in South America and find jewelry. And then I had a website and I did a Christmas village every year. So I would sell my jewelry there. And, a lot of people sell jewelry. You don't know until you go to sell it how many people are selling it. And though I loved what I was selling, um, it just wasn't it just wasn't enough even to travel through South America, which is pretty cheap. Um, and so this was a really great way um, to start something new that I thought was going to be profitable.
Well, and I get the impression, both from your comment just now, Laura, and the conversation we had before, that like with the jewelry, like you said, highly competitive, everybody's selling jewelry, or a lot of there's a lot of people selling jewelry, and it's hard to stand out as you. But I also got the feeling that when you said with the tours, the typical Machu Picchu tours and etc., it's the same tour. The guides are different, the vans are different, but basically it's the same tour. And I remember you said the thing about your company is it's very customized based on the buyer, based on the client. So it gives you that very unique, very special factor that makes you a class by yourself per se.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing with that is that when you come here, there's a million tour companies. It's a super tourist area for Machu Picchu. And they all do the same things. They're just shuffling you through. You're just another number. I mean, basically, we've trained them that these people have money and how you're going to find your way to get your piece of it. And I really don't like that. I really don't like being thought of. So our tagline is with us, you're never just another tourist. We really care about people. We know that people are spending their money and taking their time. And while maybe the Cuscanians can see them as just, you know, this person with money and how do I get my piece of that, we don't see people that way because we know that not everybody is just, rich that comes here.
Mhm.
And even if they are, they still deserve to be respected and treated, as a person, not a dollar sign.
Yes, and I can definitely resonate with that. Living in Guatemala for over a decade now, and often today, not so much, but like the early years, I remember walking to the market or especially in a tourist zone, and it was like, and I'd been around long enough and I knew the prices of things, and I'd ask the price and it'd be like double or triple. And I'd be like, no, 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 that's this price, and I'm not paying more than that. Or the person following me down the road, and each 10 steps, the price dropped 10.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I missed my bus stop the other day and the bus went down this huge hill and I couldn't get off till the bottom. And so when I got to the bottom, I grabbed a taxi and I said, I'm just going up the hill. And he ran me up the hill and he said, 8 soles. And I said, 8 soles, I can go into town, all the way into town and back a couple of times for that. I said, this is more like 2 soles. He said, okay. You know, he knew the price too, but if he could get it, he would.
Right, right. Now, in my mind, a lot of people see Peru and it's the beautiful scenery, right? We've all seen the photos of Machu Picchu and the mountains, and it is beautiful. But what would you say being there reveals to people about themselves that daily life might hide?
You asked me that again. A bus just went by and I couldn't hear you.
So, what does being in Peru reveal to people about themselves? Like when they're on your tour or on a retreat, that their daily life just hides it from them. Like
Yeah, I
they don't
think
see it. But when they come there,
when you're in a routine, it's really hard for anything to change. You have to change something, to change it. So I think to me, the main thing that helps people to have an amazing experience here is the exposure to the culture and to the food and to the nature and to all these things that give you a different perspective. I mean, if you're having maybe you're having an issue in your marriage and you come and you see how the Quechua people work together and they believe that it's equal. Like both they have very specific roles, but each one is absolutely important. And they believe that if you're not like if they're working in the field and they're not working happily, then the crops won't grow. So you'll see them working in the field and they're singing and they're, dancing and they're working, but they believe they have to be happy. And you can't fake it because the crops know if you're really happy or not. So they will, they have to appreciate each other. They have to they have to really find happiness in their relationship because that's the only way they're going to get good crops in their mind. But it doesn't matter the reason. What matters is that causes them to work at having a great relationship. And it makes you really think when you come and you see that. Now you say, okay, well, let me look at my relationship. Am I appreciating my spouse? Am I making an effort to be happy in this and to be happy in the things that I'm doing and the way that we're living together and all those things? And it gives you another perspective. The same when you hear these stories of like the Incans and all the stories about them and the way they lived and the things that they believed. It just gives you another perspective that helps you to reflect on your own life in a new way.
Yeah, definitely. Because as you said, it's very easy to get stuck in that routine rut. And it's also easy to get focused on all the negatives, right? Oh, he snores. Oh, she her jaw pops when she eats, or whatever the little idiosyncrasies. And I know from my own experience, my own learnings, you focus on the negative, guess what you see more of?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, and another thing too is that it helps to remind you that your place in life is not so, if I do the dishes more often just because I'm the woman, so what? If I do, you know what I mean? If I just don't think it's bad to see, I don't think it's bad to have those really defined roles based on men and women or based on whatever you have that based on in your relationship. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think you can take pride in that. Yep, I'm the man. I take out the garbage instead of, oh, just because I'm the man, out the garbage, or just because when you see these people that really do take such pride in their roles and have such respect for each other and such, you know, they don't see it as one role better than the other. They see it all, this is all what we need to do. And so you do this, I do that, and look how happy we can be.
Excellent point.
I think the American society has twisted that a lot.
I would tend to agree. Living in Latin America, and it's not perfect. It has its challenges as well. But yeah, this anti-role, like, what? Why do I got to take the garbage out because I'm the man? Like, you got two arms, like, but and I know in my relationship, yeah, we tend to do the roles that have typically been associated with our gender, but we maintain that flexibility. And like you said, like the Quechua people, it's a team effort, right? I do this, you do this, together we achieve that. So when in your experience when people come, what is the first thing that tends to soften once they stop fighting the environment? Like they get there and they're starting to get into seeing what's happening and the way life is.
What's the first thing that starts to soften? I think that a lot of times people are nervous about coming to another country. That's why it's so much easier to come on a retreat because everything's done for you. You know you're safe. They're going to pick you up at the airport. Everything's going to be, but a lot of people are very nervous about it. And I think when they just get here and then they settle in, okay, this is safe, and everyone that they meet has been kind to them, and they start to get the feel of the place, that this isn't a place of stress and striving and all those things. It's really, I mean, from the culture itself, from the grand culture itself down to what you're doing each day, it's just, and be safe and be calm. I tell people, come like a child. When we tell you to get your shoes on, get your shoes on. It's going to be fun. And other than that, you don't have to worry about anything because, you got to put aside your watch, put aside your concern and your control and your all of those things. And, which takes a lot of trust of us. I understand that,
Right.
and we really try to build that trust with people because that's just part of having an amazing time here, is to trust us and to say, hey, we've done this a lot. We're not going to take you anywhere unsafe. We're not going to take you anywhere that you're going to be uncomfortable or anything like that. So yeah, I think when they start to feel the laid back feel of the culture, not everybody's looking at their watch and getting on time, and that's just not how they operate here.
Right.
Which
It's
is also a
yeah,
lot,
I've
which is
noticed.
also a source of stress for a lot of people because a lot of people want to be like, "Hey, the van is 5 minutes late. Hey, weren't we supposed to?" And it's like, "Yeah, that's not how it goes," or plans change or whatever happens. People get it, and so that's part of what happens when you're here. You start to get that feel of another way of life, a way of life that's not run by every moment of the clock, a way of life that's run by, oh, we met this cool Quechua lady who was selling something and we wanted to stop and see what she was selling and talk to her and whatever. And that's more important than, starting something on time or being on time. I mean, that, South America, I think people are really known. Anyone who in the States knows someone from South America, they're always late. They're not thinking about the time that something's going to start.
Right. Well, I remember the old lived in California most of my life and visited Mexico so many times. And the joke was if you want everybody to show up at 10 a.m., tell them it starts at 9. Yeah, you got to advance it.
Right, right.
And today, after living here for the time I have, my wife and I call it the socks principle because as an English speaker, if you I would say, "Hey, you want to learn some Spanish?" Yeah, spell socks. Just say the letters. S O
Socks.
C K S, which means what in Spanish?
Socks? S.
S O C K S. S O C K S.
Oh, okay.
It is what it is.
Yeah, okay.
S O C K
SOC,
S.
yes.
It is what it is.
Okay. That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it
You
is
know, you
difficult, and
went
like I'm sure like me and you, it took time to get used to that. And so it is a bit shocking for someone that comes and only for a week and doesn't have a lot of time to get used to it, but there's a little bit of exposure to that, and it is a really good way to live. It used to drive me crazy because
oh,
I am very
I know the
timely.
feeling.
I was one of those people, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. And and not 80 minutes late really to even but you learn to appreciate that, and so that's one of the things that we like to expose people to.
Right. Well, and you learn to, like you said, just to be more in the moment, to enjoy people and experiences as it is. Hey, we got here. Yeah, okay, we're 15 minutes late. So what? We'll stay 15 minutes longer. No big deal. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have to be minute by minute on the clock like more developed societies are used to, right? It starts at 9 and the bus is out by 9:01 and blah blah blah. It's stressful and
Exactly. Yeah.
I believe that shift from this watching the clock and just grind push to just kind of relaxing and the Latin American rhythm was one of the factors that now I have a son. The thing that I we had given up all hope on that it would
That's
happen. And
amazing.
3 years in Guatemala, my wife gets pregnant. At first, we went, "What?"
Yeah, I think you don't realize how living by the clock like that, you just get wound up. You just get, always nervous, always checking, always, and it's just becomes part of the way we are until we don't even notice it anymore.
Yes. Now, have you ever seen a moment during a retreat when somebody had that realization that they can't outrun themselves anymore?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, all the time. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't take, I think there's a few factors. For one thing, there's an energy here. For another thing, people know there's an energy here, so when they come, they're expecting for something to happen. You know what I mean?
Right. They're already like warmed up for the
Right,
shift.
exactly. They're already warmed up. You're not trying to talk them into it. They're already understanding that. And so I think that's a big part of it, but it's amazing. It's amazing to see what can happen in a week. The changes that can take place in a person. The you know, Yeah, we just get that all the time. This is the most amazing week of my life. I've never imagined something so much could take place. And it's not anything we're doing, it's them just leaning into the energy of the Sacred Valley and being, like I said, mainly being exposed to different cultures and all the different things and getting a new perspective. And
Well, and I think based on what you said earlier, Laura, I think the thing is you create that safe container where they can let their guard down and embrace the sacred valley
Yeah,
and
and you have to accept that
experience.
people are going to get snarky sometimes. They're going to get, what I mean? It's a change that's happening, and you have to be able to accept that and help them through that and not be offended by that and just be like, okay, well, yeah, it's difficult, but this is how we're going to do it, okay? Because we know that the other side of that is something good that they don't know yet.
Right.
Yeah, and there's
Yeah.
a
And
there's this idea that another great thing about it is when you come with a group of people, there's this idea that what is this? Trying to remember the woman's name, but she did a TED talk about it, about how when you have a shared first, when you're doing something with someone and it's the first time for both of you, you're having this shared first, that builds such a bond. Like most people that will leave that have been on a retreat will be friends with those people long after the retreat ends because they've had this bonding time sharing these new things. So that's another thing. You just feel so close to the people that you're here with, even if you don't even know them. Through the course of the week, you have, oh, he's the one that grabbed my hand and pulled me up the steep spot on the hike, or you know what I mean? He's the one who we laughed about because he didn't like the ceviche or whatever it is. You have even the simplest things become bonding moments because you're doing them together for the first time and you're all in this new environment and nobody is you're not in anybody else's space, so to say, or anybody, you know what I mean? There's none of that. You're all equal, you're all the same, you're all doing this for the first time, and it's just such a great way to bond together.
I well, and that, as you were sharing that, and of course we talked about that before. I mean, we're here today because of that. Like, that's how I met you. We were in a first time experience of the $1 billion impact
Yeah.
platform with Stacy, and here we are because of that shared first.
Yeah, isn't that crazy how and then you're just like, oh yeah, hey, yeah, Sean, okay, yeah, well, you feel like you know each other, you feel like you already have a bond or something in common because you did this thing that you'd never done before and they'd never done before and experienced it together. So yeah, it's a very, very cool thing.
All right. So, week long experience, life changing for a lot of people. Even if it's just a small shift that kind of opened their eyes, they made new connections, they go home. What would you say actually changes? And maybe you have follow-up data when they get back and the noise is back in their ear, right? All the rush and everything that they left behind for a week is back on them. So
Well, I
what
think that
changes
I
for
think
them?
that you will have a resistance to that, and you need to pay attention to that resistance to that, or you can just it'll all be for basically nothing and you'll go back to the way you were. Um, but I think if you'll notice those things that you didn't notice before, but now are you're seeing, right? I have another
Mm-hmm.
company called Ignite Your Life where it's just a Facebook group and we post in there everyday little things that you can do to get out of your routine because the thing that really made the difference for you when you came on the week-long retreat was getting out of your routine. Everything's new. Everything's a new perspective. Everything's, you know what I mean? But you can continue that on by just doing little things, the smallest things that get you out of your routine on a regular basis. It's going to spark your creativity. It's going to keep that new thing going. It's going to, give you that idea that, or answer that question that you've had that you didn't know, but you're not going to get that when you just are doing the same thing over and over. What you're going to get when you do the same thing over and over is that 20 years from now, you're going to look back on your life and say, where did that go? You know, you have to get out of your routine, and it can be just in the tiniest way. And so, if you'll keep that up, if you'll continue to interrupt your routine in little ways, you'll keep that feeling that you had on the retreat going, and you'll be able
Yeah,
to still continue to
keep
progress.
the embers burning, right?
Right, right.
In
And
a
then you can
sense.
continue to to progress. And this thing that you learned, now you're learning more. Now it's an idea. Now it's something, you know what I mean? Or whatever it might be. If you just go back to your same old routine, it'll be forgotten as if you've never thought of it. But if you keep getting out of your routine in little ways, you'll build on what you did and improve.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's extremely valuable, like you said, just to get out of your routine a little bit. And of course, doing a retreat in Peru, there's probably things that challenged people a little bit. I remember some of my police friends, they're like, hey, we're doing a training run for this new police officer to hike the volcano. You want to come? We're like, yeah, let's go. Okay, well, it's 6 hour climb. I'm like, what? 6 hours? Like, I don't know. But yeah, let's go ahead.
Yeah, and then
And
you
it
get
was
then
it was an
you're with
amazing
them, you're doing this
experience.
thing together, when you have something else to put your attention to, the things, like I said, the answers, the ideas, the things come to you because you're not trying to pull them out of the, whatever, you're letting them come to you as you're looking the other way. What was that saying? Life's what happens while you're making other plans. I mean, all the good things
Yep.
come when you're doing something fun and you're learning and yeah, I really believe that.
All right. So for a lot of people, there can be a temptation for, the beautiful experience of standing up there and seeing the valley like we see in the photos, or the spiritual aspect of it. Some people use those instead of actually digging in and dealing with hard truths. They're using it as like a bypass or a distraction. What ways do you use to help keep them grounded and not floating too high in
Well,
the
one thing I said,
experience?
like I said, people get snippy. People get, they're out of their comfort zone. They're doing something new. They're frustrated or things. And you just have to accept that about people, first of all. They're going through something. They're making some progress. So you have to, I think that's one of the things about being here is that it's so accepted. Your little huff isn't going to get you anything, in one way or another. It's just your little huff. Okay, have that. You know what I mean? And people usually need
Mm-hmm.
that attention of, okay, oh, are you angry? Are you angry? Or whatever. And we don't do that. You're going through whatever you're going through. You're changing how you're going to change. And so people, it's like if you don't get attention for something, then it's not working. That's not distracting you. You're not bypassing with that. You're not bypassing because, you know what I'm saying? Those things just kind of naturally are eliminated because there's so many other things to think about. You don't you can almost not bypass because you're not thinking about it enough to do that. You're thinking about what you're doing next. You're thinking about all the scenery that you're seeing. When you were hiking that hike, you weren't thinking about how to bypass that. You had to watch each step and look for stones and not fall over the or whatever. When you're and that is the key. When you're doing new things, you have to be in the moment. And you can't be focused on, well, I don't want to face this or that. You're not even thinking of that because you have to be in the moment. And in the moment is when things change. When you're thinking about the past, that's where you have regret. When you're thinking about the future, you have anxiety. But when you're in the moment, you're just who you are. You can't be anything else because all you can think of is the moment. And that's so true of when you're here. Everything is the moment. Everything is,
And yeah, and it, like, I find that the culture, the vibe, the rhythm here in Latin America brings a lot of that, especially for us ex-rushers, I'll call them. Um, and the challenges, right? You're doing something, like you said, it's more challenging. There's risks, right? That you wouldn't have in your normal day-to-day life, like climbing up a volcano or going up to the top of Machu Picchu. It's safe-ish, right? I mean, people generally don't get hurt, but it can go wrong. It, like you said, when you're focused on putting your attention now to make sure you take the right step, yeah, it's hard. it's hard to get stuck in all that old stinking thinking.
Right, right. And even if you're not doing something that's, you know, could possibly be dangerous, even if you're, swimming in the Olympic sized pool, but the music that's playing is drums and guitars and totally different than, and that's getting your attention and you're thinking about, wow, this music is really interesting, whether you like it or dislike it or whatever, still there's something different there that's getting your attention. So you're not just it's just
Well,
impossible. It's just impossible to be routine, you know, when you're here. In fact, you need a little bit of that routine. Okay, go brush your teeth because that's gonna ground you a little bit so it's not overwhelming. You know what I mean? But it's impossible to
mhm.
not be in the moment because there's always something drawing your attention.
I can't think of anything. I had an idea, but I'm like, nah. I think we talked about that, and I had some other questions about like, but you already answered it. You don't rush people. In fact, you often get people like, I thought the bus was leaving 5 minutes ago. Like they want you to rush a little more because they're so used to everything being on time.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we had a lady, we just had a retreat actually just a few months ago. And the lady that was running the retreat, the host of the retreat, and her, had her, I told her, you know what, we don't share our itineraries. And I'm really going to suggest that you don't either. We'll tell people what you were doing. We tell, you know what's happening, you know what all you're going to do, but we don't give people this hour by hour schedule. Oh, well, everybody's got to know what they're doing. They've got to know what shoes to put on. And I said, okay, whatever you want to do, but I would recommend against it. And so then she would get so upset when something would change and then the people would be like, "The schedule's changing again." And I said, "I told you, don't share it with them. And then you won't have to, be worried that it's changing because it always does. Something happens, whatever. Things, maybe you wanted to spend more time at one thing. Maybe you want to spend more time feeding the alpaca and shopping for alpaca products and now we're a little late for dinner and that's going to make the thing we're doing tonight a little later, whatever it might be. We're okay with that. We're used to it. But her people would be like, the schedule is changing again. And she'd be like, I'm sorry, I know. And I said, I told you, don't share the schedule because
Creating
people just
creating
get
our own
wrapped up in
headaches.
it. Yeah.
Well, that's a perfect segue to this question. So, you're used to holding space for others, as you just talked about. What lets you know it's time to slow down or step back yourself?
When I am striving, like if I don't feel like this always sounds so silly when I say it, but if I don't feel like working, I don't work. Because I know that I'm not in the right energy. I'm probably going to have to redo what I did, or it won't be my best work, or it won't be, you know what I mean? Especially if I'm trying to do something creative. I just don't do it if I don't, actually, I don't do anything I don't want to do. So if there's something that I, quote, need to do, but I don't want to, I don't do it until I want to. One example would be like laundry. Like people don't like to do the laundry. But you know what? I love to do the laundry because I don't want to go around naked or smelly. I find a reason to want to do the thing I need to do. And then I do it in that energy instead of, okay, I'm going to buckle down and I'm going to get this. And, there's a mentality of that, of the, um, dig in, be dedicated, all that whole thing. And I just don't live that way. I mean, I guess it works for some people, and there's people, I guess, if you said, well, I'm not going to do anything I don't want, then you would never get anything done. But that just shows you're not doing things in your life that you want to do. I come to work every day because I love doing it. I love, putting retreats together. I love talking to people like you about it. And then when people come, I love the being a part of that because so much of the time that I spend here, I'm pretty isolated. I'm just at my computer working. But then when we actually have a retreat and the people come, and that's the really fun part. So, so I do what I want because I'm doing what I want. If you're forcing
Right,
yourself
right.
to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
these things all the time, if you
you kind of
just need
flip it like
dedication and diligence to get it done, well, then maybe you're not enjoying your life as much as you could. and
Right.
I'll
And
sit down and I won't be in the mood to do something that I need to do, and I won't do it, but it gets done because later on, the energy changes and I'm in the mood to do that thing or get that thing done or find a reason to want to be happy about it.
right. Instead of sludging through it at that
Like if I'm
moment
not
when you didn't.
happy, my crops aren't going to grow.
Yeah. Or, you know, I think a lot of people, like you said, it starts with the mentality, right? I do what I want. And it's actually flipped. Like generally people say, well, if I did only what I wanted, I'd do nothing. No, that's not what you're saying. You're not laying around all day
Right.
drinking pina coladas and eating bonbons. You're like, you know what? I don't feel like doing that right now unless it's got some, like you said, the right
It's not a
energy or
matter of
you're
not
in the
doing
right,
what you want. It's a matter of finding a reason to want to do the things that you do. And if you can't
right,
find that reason, if you just have to muscle through every time, then you maybe need to make some changes.
right. To reevaluate.
Right,
And
because
I think that starts with, like you said, the mindset, the mentality. If we say to ourselves, well, I have to take the trash out, I have to do the laundry, that's not gonna we're not gonna want to do it.
right, have tos and shoulds. Got to
Yeah,
get them out.
they're horrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I get to get up and make coffee in the morning. I get to talk to people from around the world and learn about them and what they're doing and the impact they're making. It changes everything. Have you ever had, like, can you remember when you didn't listen to the signals that told you to
Yeah.
step back or
Oh yeah. It was I spent many, many years doing all these things I had to do and not being happy and being angry and being, you know, just angry all the time. I was angry all the time for a lot of years and having conversations with people in my head. And because I blamed everybody else that my situation was so, that I was so unhappy. And there was so much of that, and now I'm free of all that. And that's why I can say, like you say, it's not like a 5-year-old, I don't do what I don't want to do. It's that I am doing the things I love to do. And so if I just stay in that, then everything that's in my life either needs to be weeded out, seen in a new way.
right. It's like I don't do task lists, but a lot of people love task lists. And it's kind of like your retreat leader who said, "Oh, we need to have the outline of what's going to happen." And then everybody got upset cuz things changed cuz that's the way things go, especially down here, right? I can't count how many times that we had this plan to we just had it happen. So, being in Latin America, probably different in Peru. You can probably go see snow. Guatemala, there's no snow. My son only knows Guatemala and he said he wants to see snow. So there was these advertisements on social media. The first time in Guatemala, snow park, it's going to be at this location. Buy your tickets ahead of time. There's going to be skiing and tubing and
Wow.
hot cocoa stations. Sounded great. We were going to do it one day, but things changed. We got invited to go to a birthday party for his friend's friend, and we did that. And I didn't get the tickets, and we said, "Okay, we're going to be in the city, in the capital city, for New Year's Eve anyway. Let's do it then." So over the weekend, this past weekend, I said, "Oh, I better buy the tickets." The site's gone. Can't access the site. Their Instagram page gone. All the posts on Facebook about this place, scam, 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 scam. They just stole money. Don't fall for this. I was like, wow. I'm so glad that we didn't get loot.
Yeah, and you
They
could
were
have been
charging.
like really bummed you didn't get the tickets, or why did this birthday party have to be this day, or whatever. But it turns out it was for your good that you
It
didn't
was
get the
protective.
tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think that you can really live life that way, and that energy of Everything works out as long as I see it that way.
As long as I get out of the way.
Right, yeah. That's the thing.
Sometimes.
Like someone who wants the outline and then they're super frustrated when everything doesn't go according to the outline. Well, if you didn't have the outline, maybe you wouldn't have that frustration.
Well, and it's that ties into a book I'm reading right now, Laura. It's called Clarity, and it it's talked a lot about how a lot of we like to it goes back to your story of when you were in the hustle and bustle and doing all the things you should do that you didn't really want to do because that's what people do, and you were miserable. And you said, as I recall, you said, I blamed the circumstances and other people, and we often do, right? It's my jerk boss or the stupid people on the road that can't drive, and we blame it. The reality is our emotion, it comes from our thoughts, right? It's not the circumstance that's causing the trigger.
Yeah,
It's our thoughts about the circumstance.
right.
Like, oh, he cut me off, he's so rude, he's such a blah blah blah, when maybe he was on the way to a hospital because his wife's giving birth. I don't know. Maybe he just honestly didn't see you.
And either
But we get
way,
in our
if he's
thought.
some miserable person that wants to do that, why are you going to let that choose how are you going to let that decide who you are?
Right. Why are you going to let them rain on your parade?
Right, yeah. My
That's what I
son,
heard when I was
when my
younger.
son came to visit me in Peru and he had these friends of ours, this husband and wife, and they went to one day they went to get some food or whatever. And they came back and they told me the story. This guy's name was Chevy. And he said, yeah, we got on the bus and this girl got on the bus and Andy immediately got up and gave her his seat because that's how my sons are, of course. And he said, but they don't really do that down here. The men don't get up just because you're a woman. If you're old or you've got a baby or something, they'll give you your seat. But otherwise, but anyway, so he said, then I was just hoping that no one else would get on because if another woman got on, I'd have to get up and give up my seat. Otherwise, I look like a jerk, after he gives up his seat.
Mm-hmm.
So he said the next stop, this girl gets on and she's just scantily dressed, looks a mess. She's dragging this kid with her and yelling at her kid. And he said, why should I give my seat up for her? And I said, why would you let a woman like that decide who you are? It's about, are you the man
Wow.
that gives up your seat or not? The woman that gets on has nothing to do with it. It's about you deciding who you are.
Yeah. Well said.
That's what I'm
A
saying. So
great,
he's
great
thinking now I
illustrate.
have to give
Yeah,
up my
great
seat.
illustration.
No, you don't have to give up your seat. But if you're going to give up your seat, then give it up because you're the kind of man who gives up your seat. There's something, to feel good about that.
Regardless of who this person is. Like if
Right.
you're
Why
giving
why
your
are you
seat
going to let
up
her
for a
decide how you
woman,
behave?
right? Yeah. Yeah. I almost feel like this question doesn't fit, but in where do you feel less pressure to prove now than you did earlier in your life or in your journey?
I think that maybe that just comes with age. There just comes a time when you no longer care what people think. I have nothing to prove to anybody. I mean, I have something to prove to my guests, and going back to, not having an outline or whatever like that. I don't want anyone to think that I don't actually plan the retreat or that we don't, obviously there's there's part of that in life. But it's when that's what anchors you, then you have issues that, okay, I have an outline now. It's got to go to the outline and it's got to be on time. That then I think it's that life can be very frustrating. So I don't want anyone to think that I don't actually plan the retreats. Hopefully you guys show
Right.
up. Hopefully we'll be at the airport. We'll see if we feel like it. It's not like that.
Right. It's not that. Yeah.
It's not like that. No. Um, we do plan and we do knowing that this is Peru and things just don't go as planned. You plan the best that you can so that when things are off, you still have some sort of structure there. Um, but yeah, I think just with time, I mean, I have always loved to travel. I was at one time when I was back in the States and I was at a thing for my nephew's son or whatever, and the other side of the family was there. And someone was telling him that I lived in South America, and he looked at me and he said, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure." He goes, "Why would you do that?" He couldn't imagine, you know what I mean? He just thought it was the craziest thing ever. Like, why would you live in another country? You know, it never would cross his mind. I think they take a vacation to Florida every year, and that's what they do, you know. So always people are going to think what you do is, you know, out of the box. Unless you're in the box, then what does it matter what people think? Because you're miserable anyway, because you're in the box. Part of getting out of the box is that everybody that's in the box is going to look at you as weird or think you're foolish or whatever. And, you know, you have your own life to live. And if you don't live it, you're going to get to an age pretty quick where you feel like you wasted your whole life trying to please everybody else. And once you get past that, you're so free, you know? And like I said, I think
Yeah.
with age too, you start to not care what people think anymore because pleasing people never really works.
And I totally understand what you're saying because not only when we made the decision to pack everything we owned into our RV and drive across Mexico to head south, everybody thought we were nuts. Like, why would you want to do that? You live in, the United, you're American, you live in the United States, and why would you do that? But even today, because I meet people around the world and I'm talking to them, they're like, I'm just curious. You were an American and you left and you moved to Guatemala, and we're all over here trying to get to the US.
Yeah.
Like, what's the thinking? Like, they're not picking it apart. They're just like, we don't understand. Like, we all want to go there. Why did you leave?
Yeah.
Like, you had it, you were there. And I highlight a lot of the reasons. One is life's too short to only live in the 50 states. And I saw a lot of them. Like you, I love traveling. When I was out of high school, I traveled all across Asia:
Very cool.
Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan, Korea, Philippines, all of it. So I think that, that wired me differently as I got older, that, you know,
You
I
know,
was
I met
more
a lot of
open.
people, like when I was in, especially when I was in Ecuador, I met a lot of people that had gone to the United States and then moved back because they said we went there, we lived with our family in New York, we shopped at a Spanish grocery store, we cooked the same food, we never learned a word of English, and we paid 10 times what we pay here to live there. Why should we do that? And they came back to Ecuador. And I met a lot of people that happened to because, you know, they have this dream, but it's just not like that to move to the United States, you know? Like I hear people here
Right.
who say, "Oh, the old people are taken care of and the kids are taken care of and people that don't have a place to, you know, they're talking kind of about the welfare system and that." And it's like it's not like what you think. It's not like what you think, you know?
No. It's never what you think,
Yeah.
right? The other question I get being in Guatemala, they're like, "Isn't it dangerous?" And I'm like, "Not as dangerous as you think it is." I'm not minimizing. Yeah, there are red zones that I
Like
don't go
everywhere.
to. And there are parts where I can drive at night and I'm not worried about someone attacking me on the road. But I still don't like to drive at night because there are vehicles with no lights. There are people running across the road in all dark or walking along the side. So, yeah, I prefer to drive when I can see everything, not at night. But I'm not like, oh my gosh, it's past sunset. Oh my gosh, what am I gonna do?
Yeah,
It's
and
not as
so many
dangerous
times I think,
as,
you know, you people just have these pictures in their mind and they're just not the way it has to be. You know, obviously you don't want to go somewhere that's dangerous or something, but just the fear of just the just fear itself holds a lot of people back from doing things that they wouldn't have to be afraid to
yeah.
do.
And that fear, as we're noting, is often generated off of the reports of others.
Right. And you know, it's again back to that when you have this thing that you have to hang on to the schedule or whatever it might be. The outline is there. We got to do the outline. That desire for control, I think, is really based on a fear where
Yeah.
when you come here, it's going to be different. It's going to be, and if you will embrace that, you'll have a great time. But if you come and you're afraid and everyone's trying to hurt me, and they're trying to rip me off for money and they're doing it, you're not gonna like it. Two
Yeah.
people can come to the same place and have a totally different experience just based on
Absolutely.
their mindset. That happened one time when I met this lady and I was in Ecuador and she was everything was smelly and the people dressed crappy and the food was in it. And I was like, those are all the things I love. The people are themselves and the food is, you know what I mean? Like we saw the same situation, totally, totally different. She hated it and I loved it. So it's
Yeah.
it's very
Exactly.
yeah, it's very much based on your mindset.
Absolutely. So I know we're at almost an hour here. So I got one last question or two last questions to kind of wrap us up, close us out. So not everybody's got a plan to go on a retreat soon, but what would you say is a small shift that anyone can make to create a space like they might get on a retreat in
I
their own
didn't hear
life?
you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're getting a little
There we
hiccups
go.
in the net.
That's better.
So not everybody listening is planning a retreat anytime soon or even planning a retreat. What would you say is one small shift someone can make to create a space in their own life similar to what they might get on a retreat?
Well, I would say join Ignite Your Life, the Facebook group, because every day or almost every day we post something that says, "Hey, try this, get out of your routine in this little way." We give you little ideas to do, you know, that just that little thing of getting out of your routine. I think that's what I believe. You build your adventure mentality. You build your when you see I just did this one little thing. Oh, that was easy. I could do this other little thing. And you can do more and more and you can get to where you start to see, like I said, that the ideas and the answers and all that is going to come by getting out of your routine. And it's easy, because what you're doing is the smallest thing that you can do that's a bit of a challenge, but doesn't cause resistance. It has to be something really easy because you don't want to have that resistance to it. So when you do something that doesn't cause
Micro
resistance,
changes.
micro
Yeah,
changes, yes, we call them mini adventures.
or mini adventures. All right. So, final question. Someone's listening to this episode and feels like they get one internal shift. What would you hope that shift is?
Do it because you want to. If you don't want to, find a reason to want to, or don't do it. Don't go through your life just doing a bunch of stuff that you don't want to do. I had a friend who she was getting ready to go to a party. I was staying with her in Lima, and I was like, "Oh, you're going to a party? That's gonna be fun." She goes, "Oh no, I don't even want to go." I'm like, "You're going to a party, but you don't want to go?" And she goes, "Well, if I don't go, my sister, I'll never hear the end of it from my sister." And I said, "Well, then either go because if you can't deny your sister that, then say, 'Hey, I'm going to go to this party because this is going to make my sister happy.'" You may not be able to
Yeah,
say, "Okay, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to," but you can find a reason to want to. Instead of I don't even want
I
to go to
love
this
that.
party, you can say, "Well, I'm going to go to this party because that'll make my sister happy." And then I won't have to listen to her complain. Even though, I might not enjoy it or whatever, that's the good thing that I'm going to find that gives me a reason to do this. And if you can do that with everything, you're just happy.
Yes, much happier life. So, what I'm hearing is do it because you want to. And sometimes that means just finding a reason to want to. Laura, thanks again for your time and your energy. I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing with us. Hopefully, one day I can get down to Peru and
That'd be great. Yeah.
experience what you've shared. But right now, I've got pictures in my head. I've got the visualization of what's possible, and I love the ideas of mini adventures. The concept of your group on you said Facebook group, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I will go ahead and put links to that in the show notes. links to reach out to Laura, our website, socials, etc. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thanks again, Laura, for your time and energy. Everybody, hope you have a great new year. We're recording this 2 days before New Year's Eve. So here's to a wonderful 2026. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Daily Power Boost. Ignite your potential. Remember, transformation starts with action. So take today's insight, make it your own, and awaken your inner potential. Because remember, greatness begins within. Catch you tomorrow for your next Power Boost.